Still messing around with that app thing? My father asked, barely glancing up from his newspaper. The question hung in the air over our Sunday dinner table, weighted with familiar disappointment. I pushed the green beans around my plate, swallowing the defensive response that rose to my throat. 29 years old, and family dinners still reduced me to feeling like a teenager. It's not just an app, Dad. It's a comprehensive wellness platform, I said quietly, reaching for my water glass. We've doubled our user base in the last quarter. That's nice, honey, my mother chimed in with that particular tone, the one that meant she wasn't really listening. Did I tell you that Richard's son just made partner at his law firm? Only 32. They're celebrating with a trip to Bali. My brother Alex smirked across the table. Meanwhile, Ellie's celebrating another round of trying to convince people to pay for something they could do for free. It's not. I started, but my father cut me off. Elena, we're just concerned. It's been 3 years since you left your perfectly good job at Martin & Shaw. 3 years of, he gestured vaguely in my direction, this startup fantasy. Your apartment is tiny, you're driving that same old car. And for what? Some app that tracks people's feelings? Synapse doesn't just track feelings, I said, feeling my cheeks heat up. It's an AI-driven mental wellness platform that helps people recognize patterns in their emotional health and provides personalized resources. We're working with 3 major corporate clients now, and... Oh, sweetheart, my mother interrupted, reaching over to pat my hand. Wouldn't it be easier to just go back to marketing? Judith says her company is always looking for experienced people, and the benefits are wonderful. I pulled my hand away. I don't want to go back to marketing, Mom. I'm building something important. My father sighed heavily. Elena, at some point, you need to face reality. You're approaching 30. This is the time to build a career, not play entrepreneur. Who's playing? I muttered, but no one was listening anymore. The conversation had already shifted to Alex's recent promotion at the investment bank, where he'd worked since graduation, a proper career path in my family's eyes. I excused myself early, citing work to finish. It wasn't a lie. There was always work to do when you were bootstrapping a company with minimal outside funding. As I drove back to my apartment, I replayed the dinner conversation in my mind, a familiar heaviness settling in my chest. My phone buzzed with a text from Mia, my co-founder and best friend since college. How was the family inquisition? Same as always, I typed back. Dad thinks I'm wasting my life. Mom thinks I need benefits. Alex thinks I'm a joke. 3 dots appeared immediately. And you? I smiled despite myself. I think we need to nail this health first pitch on Tuesday. That's my girl. See you at the office tomorrow. 8 a.m. sharp. We've got this. I arrived at our office, a converted industrial space we shared with 3 other startups, at 7:15 the next morning. The quiet before everyone arrived was my favorite time to work, when I could focus without interruptions. Our space wasn't much. A cluster of desks, a small conference room we'd built ourselves with reclaimed wood and glass, and a kitchenette area. But to me, it represented everything: freedom, possibility, purpose. I opened my laptop and dove into the presentation for Health First, one of the largest healthcare providers in the region. If we landed this contract, it would transform our company overnight. Mia arrived at 7:45, balancing 2 coffee cups and her ever-present tablet. At 30, she was only a year older than me, but carried herself with a confidence I sometimes envied. She'd walked away from a promising engineering career at Google to join me in this venture, something my family couldn't fathom. You're early, she observed, sliding a coffee onto my desk. Couldn't sleep. I've been refining the ROI projections for the pitch. I rubbed my eyes. If we can demonstrate a 15% reduction in employee burnout through our platform, their savings would be substantial. Mia peered over my shoulder at the spreadsheet. These numbers are compelling. Add in the reduced healthcare utilization data from our pilot, and they'd be crazy not to sign with us. By 9:30, our small team had begun to arrive. We were 11 people in total now, 4 developers, 2 UX designers, a data scientist, a content creator, a business development rep, Mia, and me. Each person had taken a risk to join us, believing in our vision when most considered it a long shot. Morning team meeting in 5, I called out, watching as they settled at their desks. We'll keep it quick today, lots to do before Tuesday. The meeting was focused and energetic. everyone reporting their progress and plans for the day. Despite the pressure of the upcoming pitch, there was laughter, collaboration, and a palpable sense of shared purpose. It struck me, as it often did, how different this felt from my years in corporate marketing, where meetings had been exercises in politics and self-preservation. "Ellie, got a minute?" It was Raj, our lead developer, catching me as the meeting dispersed. I followed him to his desk, where he showed me a new feature he'd been working on, a predictive module that could identify potential mental health challenges before users themselves recognized the warning signs. "This is incredible, Rad," I said, genuinely impressed. "Is it ready to demo?" "I can have it polished by tomorrow. Should we include it in the Health First pitch?" I considered it. The feature was exactly what could set us apart from competitors. But including untested functionality was risky. "Let's do it," I decided. "But let's be transparent that it's in final development. They'll appreciate the innovation and the honesty." Raj nodded, already turning back to his screen, fingers flying across the keyboard. By late afternoon, I was deep in pitch preparations when my phone rang. My mother's name flashed on the screen. I considered letting it go to voicemail but sighed and answered. "Hi, Mom." "Elena, honey, I've been thinking about our conversation at dinner," she began, her voice taking on that concerned tone I knew all too well. "I ran into Catherine Miller at the grocery store. Her daughter works in HR at Bristow & Associates, and they have an opening in their marketing department." I could put in a word. "Mom," I interrupted, pinching the bridge of my nose. "I appreciate the thought, but I'm not looking for a marketing job. I'm running a company. I understand you're doing this app thing for now, but it's always good to have options. You were so good at marketing, Elena. You had such a bright future." I bit back my frustration. "I still have a bright future, Mom. Just not the one you imagined for me. I just worry about your security, your retirement, your healthcare." "I have to go, Mom. We have a major pitch on Tuesday that could change everything for us." I cut her off as gently as I could. "I'll call you later this week, okay?" After hanging up, I sat staring at my phone, a familiar mix of guilt and resentment churning inside me. Why couldn't they understand? Why couldn't they even try to see what I was building? "Family?" Maya asked, appearing at my desk with a knowing look. "How'd you guess?" I smiled weakly. Your "my parents don't understand me" face is pretty distinctive after all these years. She sat on the edge of my desk. What was it this time? Another job lead? Concern about your biological clock? Questions about your 401 key? Job lead, I confirmed. Apparently, I was so good at marketing. "You were also miserable," Mia pointed out. "Remember when you had to create that campaign for that weight loss pill that was basically just laxatives? You cried in the bathroom for an hour." I laughed despite myself. God, that was awful. "And now you're building something that actually helps people. That matters." She stood up. "Come on, the team's ordering dinner. We're all staying late to prep for Tuesday." As we walked toward the others, I felt that familiar surge of gratitude for this found family who believed in our vision. Whatever my parents thought, these people got it. They understood what we were trying to build. Tuesday arrived with a mixture of anticipation and dread. The Health First pitch represented our biggest opportunity yet, a chance to implement our platform across their entire system of hospitals and clinics, reaching thousands of healthcare workers struggling with burnout and mental health challenges. I dressed carefully in my one good suit, a navy blue number I'd bought back in my corporate days. My apartment was indeed small, as my father had pointed out, a one-bedroom in a not particularly trendy neighborhood, but it was all I needed. Most of my savings had gone into Synapse, a fact my family found incomprehensible. Mia picked me up at 8:30, her usual confident self in a crisp white shirt and charcoal pants. "Ready to change the future of mental health support?" she asked as I slid into the passenger seat. "Born ready," I replied, though my stomach was doing somersaults. The presentation went better than we could have hoped. The predictive feature Raj had developed generated exactly the excitement we'd anticipated, and our ROI projections sparked intense interest from Health First's CFO. "Your platform addresses precisely the challenges we've been struggling to solve," their chief medical officer said as we concluded. "The personalization, the preventative approach, the ease of implementation. It's impressive. We'd like to move forward. Their CEO announced much earlier in the meeting than we'd expected such a decision. Let's have our teams work on the details, but consider this a green light. Mia and I maintained our professional composure until we reached the parking garage, then dissolved into squeals and hugs like teenagers. We did it. Mia kept saying, "Do you know what this means? This changes everything." And it did. The Health First contract was worth $1.2 million annually, with a 3-year commitment. It would allow us to hire the additional team members we desperately needed, improve our infrastructure, and give us the stability to pursue other major clients. "We need to celebrate," Mia declared as we drove back to the office. "Team dinner tonight. Somewhere nice." When we arrived back at our office space, the entire team was waiting. One look at our faces told them everything they needed to know, and the room erupted in cheers. "Drinks on me tonight," I announced. "We're celebrating at Emilio's at 7. Every single one of you made this happen." The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of congratulatory messages, planning discussions, and an impromptu champagne toast, using paper cups in the office. Throughout it all, I kept thinking about calling my family, sharing this massive validation of everything they'd dismissed. But something held me back. That evening, surrounded by my team at Emilio's, the nicest restaurant many of us could afford even for special occasions, I watched as they celebrated, their faces alight with pride and excitement. These people had believed in Synapse when it was just an idea. They'd taken risks, worked ridiculous hours, and poured their talents into building something meaningful. Speech. Someone called out, and suddenly everyone was tapping their glasses. I stood feeling a surge of emotion as I looked at each face. 3 years ago, I left a job that looked good on paper but left me feeling empty. I had this idea that technology could do more than just track our steps or count our calories, that it could help people understand their emotional health and get support when they needed it most. I paused, thinking about those early days. Most people thought it was a pipe dream, a hobby, something I'd eventually give up on when reality hit. My family's faces flashed in my mind. But not you. You saw what I saw, a chance to create something that matters. I raised my glass. Today's win isn't just about a contract, it's about validation. It's proof that we're solving a real problem that affects real people. So this toast isn't to Health First, it's to all of you who believed when belief was a scarce commodity. Thank you for making Synapse not just my dream, but ours. As glasses clinked and conversations resumed, my phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a text from my brother. "Hey, haven't heard from you in a while. Everything awk with your app thing?" I stared at the message, considering how to respond. In that moment, I realized something important. I didn't need their validation anymore. This victory, this moment belonged to the people who'd been part of the journey, who'd understood the vision without requiring proof. I slipped my phone back into my pocket without responding. Tomorrow would be time enough for family communications. Tonight was for celebrating with the people who'd earned the right to be part of this milestone. 6 months after the Health First contract, Synapse had transformed. We'd moved to a larger office, doubled our team to 22 people, and signed 3 more major clients. Our platform was now supporting over 35,000 users, and the data showed we were making a real difference in how people understood and managed their mental health. I just finished a call with a potential investor when my assistant Tara appeared at my door. "Your parents are here," she said, looking slightly uncomfortable. "They don't have an appointment, but—" I froze. My parents? Here. In the 3.5 years since starting Synapse, they'd never once visited the office. "It's fine," I assured her. "You can send them in." Moments later, my mother and father stood awkwardly in my office doorway, taking in the space with wide eyes. My mother clutched her purse tightly, while my father seemed unusually hesitant. "Mom, Dad," I greeted them, coming around my desk. "This is a surprise. What brings you here?" "We were downtown for lunch," my mother explained, "and your father suggested we stop by. We've never seen your workplace." I gestured for them to sit in the visitor chairs. "Well, welcome to Synapse." They settled into the chairs, looking around at my office. It wasn't especially large or luxurious, but it was mine, the CEO's office, with glass walls that allowed me to see the bustling workspace beyond, where my team was building something important. "It's not what I expected," my father admitted, his eyes landing on the awards we'd recently won for innovation in healthcare technology, prominently displayed on a shelf. "What did you expect?" I asked, genuinely curious. He shrugged. I don't know. Something smaller, less professional? I suggested. He had the grace to look embarrassed. I suppose so, yes. An awkward silence fell. I could have filled it, could have told them about our recent successes, our growing client lists, our impressive user metrics. But something in me held back. Why was the burden always on me to justify my choices? Finally, my mother spoke. We saw an article, Helena, in the business journal. She fumbled in her purse and produced a slightly crumpled magazine. About you, about Synapse. I recognized it, a feature that had run the previous month profiling emerging health tech companies in the region. We'd been the cover story. Why didn't you tell us? My father asked, and I was surprised to hear hurt in his voice. About any of this. The article says you've raised $5 million in funding, that you're projected to hit $10 million in revenue next year. I leaned back in my chair, considering my response carefully. Every Sunday dinner for 3 years, you asked me when I was going to get a real job. When I tried to tell you about what I was building, you changed the subject or suggested career alternatives. I met their eyes directly. After a while, it seemed easier not to share. You'd made up your minds about Synapse, that it was a hobby, a phase, a waste of time. We were worried about you, my mother insisted. You left such a promising career. For what? I finished for her. For this. I gestured to the space around us, to the team visible through the glass walls. For a company that's helping thousands of people understand our mental health. For work that matters to me. My father cleared his throat. The article says you've been approached about acquisition offers. We have, I confirmed. We've turned them down. His eyebrows shot up. But we're not done yet, I said simply. There's still so much we want to build, so many people we want to help. Another silence fell, this one heavier than the last. I owe you an apology, my father finally said, the words sounding like they cost him considerable effort. I didn't understand what you were doing. I didn't try to understand. We both owe you an apology, my mother added, reaching for my hand across the desk. We were so focused on what we thought success should look like that we couldn't see you were creating your own definition. I felt a lump form in my throat. Thank you for saying that. Would you, my father hesitated. Would you show us around? Help us understand what you've built here. For the next hour, I gave them a tour of our office, introducing them to my team, explaining our platform, showing them user testimonials and data visualizations that demonstrated our impact. They asked questions, real questions, for the first time, and actually listened to my answers. Your brother's coming for dinner tonight, my mother mentioned as they prepared to leave. Would you join us? I'd like to hear more about your plans for the company. I hesitated, years of Sunday dinner disappointments making me wary. No job suggestions, my father promised, a small smile playing at his corners of his mouth. No concerned looks. Just a chance to catch up. I'd like that, I agreed, surprised to find I meant it. After they left, Mia appeared in my doorway. So those were the infamous parents, she observed. They seemed different than I expected from your stories. They were different today, I said, still processing the visit. It's amazing what a little external validation can do. That's often how it works, Mia said wisely. People need to see others valuing what you do before they can value it themselves. But hey, she grinned. Better late than never, right? I nodded, turning to look out my window at the city below. You know what's funny? 3 years ago, their approval seemed so important. I wanted it so badly it hurt, and now? Now, Mia prompted. Now it's nice to have. But I don't need it anymore. I turned back to her. Somewhere along the way, I stopped measuring success by their standards. That evening, as I drove to my parents' house for dinner, I reflected on the journey of the past few years. The doubt, the long hours, the financial stress, the victories both small and large. There had been moments when even I questioned whether I was on the right path, when the challenges seemed insurmountable. But I persisted, surrounding myself with people who believed in the vision, who weren't afraid to build something new. And now Synapse was making a real difference in thousands of lives. My phone buzzed with a notification from our user feedback dashboard. This app helped me recognize my anxiety triggers for the first time. I finally got the courage to talk to my doctor. Thank you for creating this. I smiled as I pulled into my parents' driveway. That message represented true success. Not the funding rounds, not the revenue projections, not even the long-delayed parental approval. Success was creating something that mattered. Everything else was just noise. There she is, my brother called as I walked through the door. The tech mogul graces us with her presence. I laughed, accepting his hug. Hardly a mogul. Not yet, he conceded with a grin. But the business journal seems to think you're on your way. As we moved to the dining room, I noticed something different. The familiar weight of disapproval was absent, replaced by something that felt almost like respect. So, my father said as we settled around the table, "Tell us about what's next for Synapse." And I did. For the first time at that table, I spoke freely about my vision, my challenges, my plans for growth. And for the first time, they truly listened. Some people need to see success to believe in it. Others recognize potential and nurture it from the beginning. I was fortunate enough to find the latter in my team, in Mia, in the clients who took a chance on us early on. And now, belatedly, I was finding it in my family too. Better late than never, indeed.